I spent 3 days preparing for that Christmas dinner. 3 entire days. I wanted everything to be perfect. The turkey had to be golden. The table setting had to look like something out of a magazine. My dress had to be just right. Not too formal, not too casual. I practiced my smile in the mirror that morning. The kind of smile that says, I belong here. I'm part of this family. I was so naive. Daniel's family always made me feel like I was on the outside looking in. His mother would give me those tight-lipped smiles, the ones that never reached her eyes. His sister would talk about family traditions I knew nothing about. But I told myself it would get better. 9 years of marriage, and I kept telling myself that lie. That Christmas, I thought maybe, just maybe, if I tried hard enough, they would finally see me as one of them. The dining room was warm, almost suffocating. 23 people crammed around that massive oak table. The smell of roasted turkey mixed with cinnamon candles and expensive perfume. I sat next to Daniel, my hand resting on his knee under the table. He felt distant, but I blamed it on the stress of hosting. I always made excuses for him. His father stood first, raising his wine glass. Standard toast. Gratitude, health, family. Everyone clinked glasses, and I felt the cold crystal against my lips. Then Daniel stood. My husband. The man I loved more than I loved myself. He cleared his throat, and the room went quiet. I looked up at him, expecting him to say something sweet. Maybe mention me. Maybe acknowledge how hard I'd worked. He raised his glass higher. His eyes swept across the table, touching every face. His mother, his father, his sister, his cousins, his nephews, everyone except me. To my real family, he said. 4 words. That's all it took. 4 words, and my entire world shattered like that crystal glass I was holding. I felt the stem snap in my hand, but I didn't feel the pain. Not yet. The wine spilled across the white tablecloth, spreading like blood. No one moved. No one corrected him. No one said, "What about Laura?" No one looked at me with confusion or sympathy. They knew. They all knew exactly what he meant. I sat there, frozen, while everyone clinked their glasses. The sound echoed in my ears like funeral bells. My throat closed. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I just sat there, invisible, while my husband toasted to his real family, a family that clearly didn't include me. His mother smiled, actually smiled, not at me, but at him, proud, approving. I don't remember the rest of that dinner. I don't remember eating or speaking or even existing. I was a ghost at my own nightmare. When we got home that night, Daniel went straight to bed like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just erased me in front of everyone who mattered to him. I stood in our bedroom doorway, watching him sleep peacefully, and I realized something horrifying. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. This was the truth he'd been hiding behind 9 years of, "I love you." I wasn't his real family. I never had been. And somehow, everyone knew it but me. If you've ever felt invisible in your own life, like this video, so I know I'm not alone in this pain. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying those 4 words over and over. To my real family. Each time they echoed in my head, they cut deeper. But then something worse started happening. My mind began pulling up memories, moments I'd buried, signs I'd ignored. God, there were so many signs. I remembered our second Christmas together, when his mother handed out gifts to everyone. Beautiful, thoughtful presents wrapped in gold paper. When she got to me, she handed me a generic candle set, the kind you buy at a gas station. She didn't even look at me when she said, "I didn't know what you'd like." 8 years later, and she still didn't know, because she never tried to know. I remembered the family photos. Every single one. Dozens of them hanging in their house, covering the walls like a shrine. Daniel as a baby. Daniel graduating. Daniel's sister's wedding. Daniel with his nephews. But in 9 years of marriage, not one photo of me. Not even our wedding photo. When I asked his mother about it once, she said, "Oh, we just haven't found the right frame yet." 9 years of looking for a frame. I remembered last Thanksgiving. I was carrying dishes to the kitchen when I heard them talking in the living room. Daniel's sister said something I couldn't quite hear, and then his mother responded, clear as day. "Well, if she can't give him children, what's the point?" They laughed. Actually laughed. When I walked in, the room went silent. They looked at me like I'd interrupted something sacred. I pretended I hadn't heard. I always pretended. The infertility. God, that was the worst part. We tried for 4 years. 4 years of doctors, tests, treatments, hope, and heartbreak. Every negative pregnancy test felt like failing an exam I'd studied my whole life for. And Daniel, he said all the right things. "It's okay. We have each other. You're enough for me." Our family isn't just about blood. Lies. All of it. Beautiful, convincing lies. I remembered the business trips. So many business trips. 3, sometimes 4 times a month. Regional meetings, he called them. Always to the same city. Springfield. I never questioned it. Why would I? I trusted him. I trusted the man who vowed to love me in front of God and everyone. The man who kissed my forehead every morning and told me I was his world. But I wasn't his world. I was his cover story. I thought about the phone calls he'd take in the car, the way he'd step outside to answer certain numbers, the credit card statements with charges I didn't recognize, always explained away with work dinner or client gift. I believed every excuse because I needed to believe. Because admitting the truth would mean admitting I'd wasted my entire adult life on a lie. His family knew. That's what killed me most. They all knew whatever secret he was keeping, and they protected him. They closed ranks around him while leaving me outside in the cold, wondering why I could never get warm. Every holiday, every birthday, every Sunday dinner, I was performing for an audience that had already decided I didn't deserve to be there. I got up from bed at 3 in the morning. Daniel was still sleeping, peaceful, innocent-looking. I wanted to scream at him, shake him awake and demand answers. But I didn't. Because deep down, I was terrified of what those answers might be. Instead, I went to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. Really looked. When did I become this person? This woman who shrinks herself to fit into spaces where she's not wanted? Who smiles through humiliation? Who apologizes for existing? The woman staring back at me was a stranger, and she was finally getting angry. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever ignored the red flags because you were too afraid to face the truth? The next morning, Daniel left early for the gym. Or so he said. I didn't care anymore where he actually went. I just needed him gone. The apartment felt different with him out of it, like I could finally breathe without swallowing poison. I made coffee I wouldn't drink. Stood by the window watching the gray December sky. And then I saw it. His laptop, open on the kitchen counter. He always closed it. Always. He was obsessive about it, said it was work stuff, confidential. But that morning, in his rush to leave, he forgot. My hand shook as I touched the trackpad. The screen lit up. No password. He'd left himself logged in. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I knew I shouldn't look. Good wives don't snoop. Good wives trust. But I wasn't feeling like a good wife anymore. I was feeling like a woman who'd been made a fool of for 9 years. I opened his messages first. Work contacts, spam, nothing unusual. Then I saw a folder. Personal, E. Just that. 2 words that would destroy everything. I clicked it. My hands were trembling so badly I almost couldn't control the mouse. Photos loaded. Dozens of them. Hundreds, maybe. A little girl. Dark curly hair. Daniel's eyes. His smile. She was wearing a pink birthday dress, blowing out candles shaped like the number 6. 6 years old. The cake said, "Happy birthday, Emma." I stared at that name until the letters blurred. Emma. He had a daughter named Emma. I scrolled. More photos. Emma at a park. Emma on a beach. Emma holding Daniel's hand, looking up at him with pure adoration. Emma on Christmas morning, tearing open presents. Last Christmas. While I was alone in our apartment, waiting for him to come back from his emergency work trip, he was watching his daughter open gifts. My stomach turned. I barely made it to the sink before I vomited. Nothing came up but bile and coffee. I was shaking so violently I had to grip the counter to stay standing. I went back to the laptop. I needed to see more. I needed to understand. The messages were there, years of them. Messages to someone named Michelle. "Can't wait to see my girl this weekend." Emma asked about me today, melted my heart. "I'll send the money tomorrow, don't worry." Money. He was sending her money. Our money. The money I thought was going to savings, to our future, to the children we were supposedly trying to have together. There was a message from just 3 days ago. 3 days before that Christmas dinner. Before that toast. Told my family about the Emma situation. Mom wants to meet her again soon. Maybe New Year's? Again. His mother had already met her. His mother knew he had a daughter and never told me. She looked me in the eye at every family gathering and lied with her smile. I found videos. My hands moved on their own, clicking, searching, destroying myself one file at a time. A video of Emma's first day of school. Daniel was there, holding the camera, his voice thick with pride. "That's my smart girl." Another video of her riding a bike. "You got it, Emma. Daddy's watching." Daddy. He was someone's daddy. While he told me for 4 years that children weren't that important, that we could be happy without them, he was being a father to someone else. I thought about every negative pregnancy test, every failed treatment, every time I apologized to him for my broken body, every time I felt like less of a woman because I couldn't give him what he wanted. And all along, he already had it. He already had his child, his real family. The date stamps told the story I'd been too blind to see. Emma was born 6 years ago. We'd been married for 3 years when she was born. 3 years. He cheated on me, got another woman pregnant, and kept it secret for 6 years. 6 birthdays. 6 Christmases. 6 years of lying to my face every single day. I looked at a photo of them together, Daniel and Emma, taken just last month. He was teaching her to ride a bike, his hand steady on the seat. The look on his face. I'd never seen him look at me like that. Pure love. Uncomplicated. Real. That's when I understood what he meant at dinner. To my real family. Emma was his real family. His mother, his sister, all of them. They were protecting his real family. And I was just the woman who kept his house clean and made him look respectable. I was the alibi, the cover story, the fool. I closed the laptop carefully like it might explode. My whole body had gone numb. I walked to our bedroom, looked at our bed, our photos on the nightstand, my clothes in the closet next to his. Everything looked the same, but nothing was real. None of it had ever been real. 6 years, a 6-year-old child I knew nothing about. A whole life he'd been living without me. Follow my story. Because what I found next made me realize the betrayal was even worse than I thought. I didn't confront him. I know you're thinking I should have. That I should have screamed, thrown things, demanded answers the second he walked through that door. But I didn't. Because I needed to know everything first. I needed to understand the full scope of the lie before I let him try to explain it away with more lies. So I became someone I never thought I'd be. I became a spy in my own marriage. For 3 days, I played the perfect wife. I smiled when he kissed me goodbye, made his coffee the way he liked it, asked about his day, laughed at his jokes, and every second of it felt like swallowing glass. But I had to know. I had to know how deep this betrayal went. I went through everything. Bank statements hidden in his office drawer. Thousands of dollars sent to someone named M. Rodriguez every month for 6 years. Our savings account, the one I thought we were building for our future, had been systematically drained. While I clipped coupons and bought generic brands to save for our someday children, he was funding his actual child's entire life. I found receipts, birthday presents for a 6-year-old girl, American Girl dolls, a pink bicycle, dance lessons, things I would have bought if I'd known, things I dreamed of buying for a daughter I thought we'd have together someday. He was living my dream with someone else. I created a fake Facebook account, found Michelle Rodriguez in Springfield. She was beautiful. Long, dark hair, warm smile, looked happy in her photos. Most of them featured Emma. But there were older ones, from 7 years ago, of her and Daniel. They looked like a couple. They looked in love. My hands shook so badly I dropped my phone. But the worst discovery came on the 3rd day. I was putting away laundry when I found a card in his jacket pocket. A Christmas card. Hand-drawn by a child. Crayon hearts and stick figures. To Daddy, I love you. Love, Emma. Inside was a photo of Emma hugging Daniel, both of them wearing matching Christmas sweaters. The date stamp, December 23rd. 2 days before his toast. 2 days before he told his entire family I didn't belong. That's when I knew I had to check his mother's social media. I'd never looked before because she barely acknowledged me in person. Why would I torture myself online? But I looked that day, and there they were. Photos of his mother with Emma. My beautiful granddaughter, the caption read. Posted 8 months ago. 43 likes. Comments from Daniel's sister. She's growing so fast. From his cousins. Can't wait to see her again. From his father. Looks just like Daniel at that age. They all knew. Every single person at that Christmas dinner knew he had a daughter. They'd all met her, spent time with her, loved her. While I sat at their table, invisible and excluded, they were all protecting his secret. Our marriage was the lie they were all helping him maintain. I found text messages between Daniel and his mother. She was coaching him. You need to be careful. Laura's been asking questions about money. Just tell her it's work expenses. She doesn't need to know about Emma yet. Yet? Like telling me was an option he was considering. Like I was a problem to manage. Not a human being who deserved the truth. But there was more. Messages between Daniel and his sister. How long are you going to keep this up? As long as I need to. Laura takes care of everything. She's useful. Useful. That's what I was. A housekeeper. A cover story. A way to look respectable while he lived his real life somewhere else. I sat on our bedroom floor, surrounded by evidence of his other life, and I felt something break inside me. Not my heart. That had already shattered. Something deeper. My sense of reality. My trust in my own judgment. How could I have been so blind? How could I have lived with someone for 9 years and not known they were capable of this? The hardest part wasn't the affair. It wasn't even the child. It was the premeditation, the daily choice to lie to me. Every morning when he looked in my eyes and said, I love you, he was choosing to deceive me. Every time I cried about our infertility struggles, he was choosing to let me suffer while he already had what I wanted most. Every family gathering where they excluded me, he was choosing to let them treat me like garbage. I had to keep pretending, had to keep smiling. Because I was planning something too now. I needed documentation, screenshots, copies of everything. I needed my own evidence before he could delete his. I needed to be smart about this, strategic, cold. But God, it was killing me. Every time he touched me, I wanted to scream. Every time he said my name, I heard useful. Every night, lying next to him, I imagined Emma tucking herself into bed, wondering why her daddy had to leave again, wondering why she wasn't enough for him to stay. I was living with a stranger, sleeping next to someone I never really knew. And the worst part? He had no idea I knew. He thought he was still getting away with it. He had no idea the storm that was coming. Have you ever had to pretend everything was fine while your world was crumbling inside? Tell me in the comments, because I've never felt more alone than I did in those 3 days. New Year's Eve, December 31st. I chose that night deliberately. I wanted him to remember it. I wanted the start of his new year to be marked by the end of his lies. He was getting ready to go to his parents' house. Another party I wasn't really invited to but was expected to attend. Another night of being invisible. But this time, I wasn't going. This time, everything was going to end. We need to talk, I said. My voice sounded strange, calm, cold, like it belonged to someone else. Daniel looked at me in the mirror, adjusting his tie. Can it wait? We're already running late. No, it can't wait. I walked to the bed and dropped a folder in front of him. The folder I'd been building for 3 days. Photos, bank statements, messages, all of it. Who's Emma? I watched the color drain from his face, watched his hands freeze on his tie. For 3 seconds, maybe 4, he just stared at that folder. Then he looked at me, and I saw it. Not guilt, not remorse, calculation. He was deciding which lie would work best. Laura, I can explain. Don't. My voice cracked. Don't you dare try to explain this away. I know everything. I know about Emma. I know about Michelle. I know your entire family has been lying to me for 6 years. I know about the money, the visits, the matching Christmas sweaters. So please, Daniel, don't insult me by pretending this is anything other than what it is. He sat down on the bed, running his hands through his hair. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. Too quiet. How long have you known? Does it matter? I was going to tell you. I laughed. Actually laughed. It sounded hysterical even to my own ears. When? After another 6 years? After Emma graduated high school? When exactly were you planning to tell me you had a daughter? It's complicated. No, Daniel, it's not complicated. You cheated on me, got another woman pregnant, and then lied about it for 6 years while I cried every month because I thought I was failing you, while I blamed my body for not giving you what you wanted. You let me feel broken when you already had everything. He looked up at me then, and what I saw in his eyes made my blood freeze. It wasn't shame. It wasn't even sadness. It was annoyance. Like I was being unreasonable. Like I was the problem. You couldn't give me children, Laura. He said it so matter-of-factly, so casually. Like he was commenting on the weather. What was I supposed to do? Just accept that I'd never have kids? Never have a legacy? Emma happened. Yes, it wasn't planned, but she's here now. She's mine. We were trying. I was screaming now. I couldn't help it. We were seeing doctors. I was taking hormones. I was destroying my body trying to give you a child. And it wasn't working. He stood up, straightening his jacket. Michelle gave me what you couldn't. And yeah, I kept it from you because I knew you'd react exactly like this. Drama, tears, making it all about you. I stepped back like he'd slapped me. Making it about me? Daniel, you lied to me for 6 years. I provided for you, didn't I? His voice was getting harder now, defensive. You live in a nice apartment, drive a nice car, never had to work because I took care of everything. And all I asked was that you keep the house nice and be there when I needed you. You had one job, Laura. One job. Give me a child. And you failed. The cruelty of those words hit me like a physical blow. I grabbed the dresser to keep from falling. That's what I am to you? A job? A function? You're my wife. That's what wives do. They support their husbands. They give them families. But you couldn't do that, so I found someone who could. He picked up his keys. My family knows because they understand. They understand that a man needs an heir. They understand that sometimes you have to make difficult choices. They were protecting me because they love me. And what about me? My voice broke. Did you ever love me? He looked at me for a long moment. And then he said the words that killed whatever was left of my heart. I loved the idea of you, the wife, the partnership. But Laura, be honest. You were never going to be enough. You were never going to give me what I really needed. So I kept you for what you could do, and I got the rest somewhere else. That's just practical. Practical. He reduced our 9-year marriage to practicality. I was a convenience. A housekeeper he didn't have to pay. A cover story for his real life. Why did you even marry me? I whispered. Because you were safe. Easy. You asked for so little. You were so desperate to be loved that you never questioned anything. And honestly? He shrugged. It worked out fine. Michelle gets to be a mother. Emma has a father. And you had a husband. Everyone got what they needed. Except I didn't know the truth. The truth would have just hurt you. I was protecting you. You were protecting yourself. I was shaking. You wanted to look respectable. You wanted the perfect marriage for your career while you played house with your mistress and daughter on the side. She's not my mistress. Emma's mother is. He stopped himself, but it was too late. Say it, I demanded. Say what she is to you. He looked me dead in the eye. She's the mother of my child. That makes her family. Real family. You? He gestured at me dismissively. You're just the woman I'm legally tied to. And there it was. The truth underneath all the lies. I wasn't his wife. I wasn't his partner. I was an obligation. A legal contract. A woman too pathetic to realize she'd been used for 9 years. Follow my story. Because his cruelty that night was just the beginning of my nightmare. He left. Just walked out the door like we'd argued about what to have for dinner. I heard his car start, heard it pull away, and then I heard nothing. Just the horrible, suffocating silence of being completely alone. I don't remember falling, but I was on the floor, my back against the wall, staring at nothing. The apartment was too quiet. I could hear the refrigerator humming, the clock ticking, my own breathing, shallow and broken. Every sound felt too loud, like the world was mocking me with its normalcy. How could the clock keep ticking when my life had just ended? I stayed there for hours, maybe days. I honestly don't know. Time stopped meaning anything. The sun went down, came up again. I didn't move. I couldn't. My body felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. My chest hurt so badly I thought I was having a heart attack. I almost wished I was. At least then it would end. My phone kept ringing. Friends calling to wish me Happy New Year. I watched it light up, vibrate, go silent. Over and over. I couldn't talk to anyone. What would I even say? Happy New Year, by the way. My entire marriage was a lie, and I'm the only one who didn't know. I let every call go to voicemail. Their happy voices, their laughter in the background of parties. It all felt like it was happening in a different universe. One where people got to be happy. One I didn't belong to anymore. I thought about calling my mother. But what would I tell her? She loved Daniel. She thought I'd married well. She bragged about him to her friends. How could I tell her that her son-in-law had used me like a piece of furniture for 9 years? That I'd been so desperate for love I couldn't see I was never actually loved at all? The worst part was the memories. They wouldn't stop coming. Every good moment we'd ever had was now contaminated. Our wedding day. Was he thinking about Michelle? Our anniversary trips. Was he wishing he was with Emma instead? Every time he said, "I love you," was he just reading lines from a script? I couldn't trust a single memory. My entire adult life had become a lie, and I couldn't separate what was real from what was performance. I tried to eat on the second day, made it to the kitchen, opened the refrigerator, and just stared. Everything looked wrong. The food we'd bought together. The meal plan I'd made for the week. I'd been planning our lives like they meant something, like we had a future. I closed the door without taking anything. I wasn't hungry anyway. Grief has a way of killing your appetite along with everything else. I found myself in our bedroom, looking at our wedding photo on the nightstand. We looked so happy, so in love. I looked at my face in that picture, so full of hope and trust, and I wanted to scream at her, "Run! He's going to destroy you!" But she couldn't hear me. She was already gone. That girl who believed in love and loyalty and family, Daniel had killed her slowly over 9 years, and I hadn't even noticed until there was nothing left. I pulled open his closet. His clothes still hung there, neat and organized. I grabbed a shirt and pressed it to my face, and I hated that it still smelled like him. I hated that some part of me still wanted to believe this was all a nightmare. That he'd come home and tell me it was a misunderstanding. That the man I loved actually existed somewhere. But he didn't. He never had. I'd been in love with a ghost, a performance, a carefully constructed lie designed to give him what he needed while costing him nothing. I thought about Emma, a 6-year-old girl who had a father who chose her, who visited her, bought her presents, showed up for her birthdays. While I had spent years begging my body to give me what she already had, I wasn't angry at her. How could I be? She was innocent. But God, it hurt. It hurt so much I couldn't breathe. She had everything I'd dreamed of, and she didn't even know I existed. I thought about Michelle. Was she happy? Did she know about me? Or was she another woman he'd lied to? Did she think she was special? Did she believe his promises? Or was she just as foolish as I'd been? The apartment felt like a tomb. Every room held ghosts of the life I thought I was building. The kitchen where I'd cooked thousands of meals for a man who saw me as hired help. The living room where we'd watched movies while he texted his real family. The bedroom where we'd slept next to each other while he dreamed of someone else. I couldn't stay here. But I couldn't leave either. I was paralyzed by grief so profound it had physical weight. On the third day, I finally showered. The water ran cold before I noticed. I just stood there, numb, watching the water circle the drain. I wished I could disappear down that drain too. Just dissolve into nothing. Stop existing. Stop hurting. But I couldn't. I was still here. Still breathing. Still forced to exist in a world where the man I loved had spent 9 years using me while building a real life with someone else. Still forced to wake up every morning knowing that everyone knew. His family, his friends, maybe even mine. Everyone knew except the fool who kept his house clean and asked for nothing. I was that fool. And I didn't know how to be anyone else. Share this with someone who needs to know they're not alone in their pain. Because this kind of betrayal changes you forever. I was lying in bed on the 4th day staring at the ceiling when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Maybe I was just desperate for any human contact, even a telemarketer. "Is this Laura?" A woman's voice, soft, hesitant. "Yes. This is Michelle. Michelle Rodriguez." The world stopped. Emma's mother. The woman Daniel chose over me. I should have hung up. Should have screamed at her. But I couldn't move. Couldn't speak. "Please don't hang up," she said quickly. "I know you have every reason to hate me, but we need to talk. I just found out about you. I mean, really found out. And I think..." Her voice broke. I think we've both been lied to. We met at a coffee shop 2 hours later. Neutral territory. I almost didn't go. Almost stayed in bed where it was safe to fall apart. But I needed to understand. Needed to see the woman who had what I couldn't give him. She was sitting in the corner when I arrived, hands wrapped around a coffee cup like she was trying to warm herself from the inside. She looked up when I walked in, and I saw my own pain reflected in her eyes. This wasn't the confident other woman I'd imagined. This was someone broken, just like me. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat down. "I wasn't sure you would." "I wasn't sure I would either." My voice sounded hollow. "How did you find out about me?" "Emma." She smiled sadly. "She came home from seeing Daniel on New Year's Eve. Said Daddy seemed upset. Said he told her that sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices, and that she'd understand when she was older." Michelle's hands tightened around her cup. "So I asked him directly. After 6 years of questions, he never quite answered. I demanded the truth. And he told me. Told me he's been married to you the whole time. The whole time." I felt sick again. "I met Daniel 7 years ago. He told me he was divorced. Said his ex-wife had been cruel, that he was healing from a toxic marriage. I believed him." She laughed bitterly. "God, I was so stupid. I believed every word." "You weren't stupid," I whispered. "I believed him too." She pulled out her phone, showed me messages, promises Daniel had made to her over the years. "I'm going to leave her. Just need to finalize some financial things. Emma needs stability right now. Can't disrupt everything at once. Soon, I promise, we'll be a real family." The same lies he probably told himself about me. Different woman, same script. "He told me you knew about Emma," Michelle said. "That you'd agreed to let him be in her life even though you couldn't have children. He made it sound like this noble arrangement, like you were okay with it." I started crying. Not the pretty kind of crying. The ugly, gasping kind where you can't breathe. I didn't know. I didn't know any of it. I spent 4 years thinking my body was broken, thinking I was failing him, and he already had everything. Michelle reached across the table and took my hand. This woman, the one I should have hated, held my hand while I fell apart in a public coffee shop. "He used us both," she said quietly. "He used you for respectability and stability. He used me for Emma, and probably the fantasy of having a second family. We were both just pieces of what he wanted. Neither of us got the whole truth. Does Emma know about me? No. He's kept her completely separate. She thinks her daddy just works a lot. That's why he can't live with us." Michelle wiped her eyes. "She asks about it sometimes. Asks why other kids' daddies live with them. And I make excuses for him. I've been making excuses for 6 years." We sat there for 2 hours, piecing together his lies. The business trips were visits to Emma. The work emergencies were her school plays and doctor appointments. The money from our savings went to child support. His family knew because they'd chosen sides. Chosen Emma, the blood grandchild, over me, the barren wife who served no purpose anymore. "What are you going to do?" Michelle asked finally. I thought about it. About going back to that empty apartment. About filing for quiet divorce while Daniel continued living his double life. About disappearing gracefully so everyone could pretend I'd never existed. That's what I would have done before. Before that Christmas toast. Before I learned I'd wasted 9 years on a man who saw me as furniture. "I'm going to destroy him," I said, and I meant it. "I'm going to divorce him and take everything I can. I'm going to tell everyone what he did. His friends, his colleagues, his family already knows. But everyone else deserves to know what kind of man he really is. No more protecting him. No more quiet suffering." Michelle nodded slowly. "I'll help you. I have messages. Proof of what he promised me. Proof that he lied to both of us. Why would you help me?" Because Emma deserves better than a father who treats women like this. Because I'm tired of making excuses for him. And because... She squeezed my hand. Because we deserved better. Both of us. And maybe if we stand together, we can make sure he doesn't do this to anyone else. Two women who should have been enemies, united by the same betrayal. It wasn't friendship. Not yet. But it was understanding. It was solidarity in survival. It was choosing to fight back instead of just breaking quietly. For the first time in 4 days, I felt something other than pain. I felt angry. And anger, I was learning, was so much better than despair. Follow my story. Because what happened next showed me I was stronger than I ever knew. The divorce took 8 months. 8 long, brutal months of lawyers and court dates, and his family trying to paint me as vindictive. They called me bitter, said I was destroying a good man's reputation out of spite. His mother even tried to contact me, begging me to think about Emma and keep things quiet. The audacity. They wanted me to protect the man who'd used me, to spare the family that had excluded me. I refused. Michelle testified. Provided messages, financial records, proof of his lies. Together, we built a case that he couldn't deny. He tried to settle quietly, offered me money to sign an NDA. I refused that too. I didn't want his money. I wanted the truth to matter. I wanted consequences. The divorce was finalized in August. I got half of everything, which wasn't much after he'd drained our savings for years. But I didn't care about money anymore. I cared about freedom. The day I signed those papers, I felt lighter, like I'd been carrying a corpse on my back and finally got to put it down. His colleagues found out. His friends. People started asking questions. His perfect image cracked. Some people took his side, said I was overreacting, that men make mistakes. But others saw him for what he was. A man who'd lied to everyone for years. A man who'd kept 2 families because he felt entitled to everything he wanted. His reputation took hits. Not enough to destroy him. Men like Daniel always land on their feet. But enough that he felt it. I moved out of our apartment into a small studio across town. It was tiny. 1 room, barely enough space for a bed and a table. But it was mine. Every piece of furniture I chose. Every picture on the wall reflected my taste, not his. For the first time in 9 years, I lived in a space that was completely my own. Michelle and I stayed in touch. Not friends exactly, but allies. She broke up with Daniel too. Told him she was done making excuses, done waiting for promises he'd never keep. She let him see Emma, but on her terms now. No more surprise visits. No more manipulation. She took her power back. Just like I did. I went back to school, enrolled in a graphic design program I'd always wanted to do but couldn't because Daniel said it was impractical. Reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with because his family took up all our time. Started therapy. Started running. Started building a life that was actually mine. But it wasn't easy. God, it wasn't easy. There were nights I still cried. Mornings I woke up and forgot for a moment that I was divorced. Days when I questioned everything, my judgment, my worth, my future. Healing isn't linear. It's messy and painful, and sometimes it feels like drowning. But I kept going. Because the alternative was staying in that tomb of a marriage, slowly suffocating. This Christmas was my first one alone. No family dinner to prepare, no in-laws to impress. No husband to smile for. Just me in my tiny studio, with Chinese takeout and a cheap bottle of wine. I thought I'd be sad. Thought I'd spend the day crying about everything I'd lost. But something strange happened. As I sat there, looking at the little tree I'd bought myself, decorated exactly how I wanted, I felt peace. Real peace. Not the performance of happiness I'd lived for 9 years. Actual contentment. I poured myself a glass of wine, stood alone in my small, imperfect apartment, and I raised my glass to no one but myself. To my real life, I said out loud. The one I'm finally living. It wasn't the life I'd planned. It wasn't the fairy tale I'd believed in. There was no husband, no children, no white picket fence. But it was honest. It was mine. And for the first time in 9 years, I wasn't pretending, wasn't performing, wasn't shrinking myself to fit into someone else's idea of who I should be. I was just Laura. Broken in some places, healing in others. Scared but fighting. Alone but free. And that was enough. I was enough. Not because someone chose me, not because I fit someone's definition of useful, but because I chose myself. Because I decided that my truth mattered more than his comfort. Because I learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from a life that's killing you, even when you don't know what comes next. The woman who sat at that Christmas dinner and let herself be erased. She's gone. And I don't miss her. She was too small, too quiet, too willing to accept crumbs and call it love. The woman I'm becoming is harder, sharper, less willing to tolerate being treated as less than human. Some people probably think I'm bitter, that I should have forgiven him, kept quiet, moved on gracefully. But I'm not interested in being graceful anymore. I'm interested in being real, in living a life where I matter, where my pain counts, where my truth isn't something to be hidden for someone else's convenience. I don't know what comes next. Maybe I'll find love again. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll have children someday. Maybe that dream died with my marriage. But I know this. Whatever comes next will be built on truth, on a foundation that won't crumble the moment I start asking questions. This is my story. This is what happened when I finally stopped pretending and started living. And if you're reading this, if you're living a lie right now, if you're shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's life, please know you deserve better. You deserve truth. You deserve to be someone's first choice, not their convenient option. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today, because the hardest part of healing is knowing you're not alone.